You're watching ABC10 Plus This Week.
Hello, I'm Becca Habiger. You're watching ABC 10 This Week. We have the latest on the deadly avalanche near Lake Tahoe. And in dollars and cents, the U.S. housing market could be nearing a turning point in 2026 as experts point to easing mortgage rates, slower price growth, and improving affordability. Then learn how a Northern California ranch celebrates the legacy of black cowboys. ABC 10 This Week starts now.
Family, friends, and the community are continuing to mourn the loss of the victims of the Nevada County avalanche. Many of them lived in the Bay Area.
Of course, this tragedy is also impacting the surrounding community, especially in Truckee. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen is hearing from the mayor and also neighbors of the victims. Jeannie.
Chris and Laura, as crews are doing everything they can to retrieve the remaining victims, the Truckee community is grieving. Truckee's mayor told me this morning that the focus is to make sure people impacted by this have the space to heal and come together to support one another.
We are all experiencing a sense of loss and fear and anxiety.
The reality of 8 lives lost and an additional presumed dead during this week's avalanche in Nevada County is something Truckee Mayor Anna Klovstad says has been difficult on her town.
I feel incredibly grateful for the community that's coming together to support each other in this tragedy.
The families of the 6 women killed identify them as mothers, wives, and friends. The families say the group was experienced and were traveling together, coming from the Bay Area, Idaho, and Truckee Tahoe area. Cheryl Longman says her neighbor, Kate Vitt, was one of the skiers killed.
Vibrant, friendly person, devoted to her kids. I'd see them. She'd walk them to school in the morning.
Carlene Cullen recalls happier times with Vitt and her family.
She was just out there with her kids and getting them hustled off to school and after school activities. And she just seemed like a super friendly, great mom.
Jen Wofford is still trying to process the loss of her neighbor, Caroline Sakar, who is also the sister of another victim, Liz Claybaugh.
She was just a wonderful human being who loved life and was just full of love and just a very vibrant person. One of the nicest people I've ever known.
As grieving is underway, the Nevada County Sheriff's Office is doing avalanche mitigation to recover the victims.
They are extraordinary individuals that put their own safety at risk in order to do these rescues, and they do it over and over and over again. So we hope to honor those that were participated in this search and rescue, as we have done so with others.
And the town of Truckee will be holding a community vigil on Sunday. Mayor Klovstad says there will be resources available for anyone who needs support with the healing process of this tragedy. More details on the vigil will be posted on our website at abc10.com.
All right, Jeannie Nguyen, thank you. Remember, you can stay up to date with our latest coverage of this deadly avalanche. Download the ABC 10 app. It is free to download on your TV. In tonight's Dollars and Cents, 2026 could mark a turning point in the U.S. housing market. Experts say conditions could be shifting after years of high borrowing costs and soaring prices. I talked one-on-one with a local real estate expert about trends he's seeing in our area and why buyers are seeing a little more breathing room.
The market's still moving, but it's a little bit different than what we've seen in previous years.
Redfin has dubbed this year the Great Housing Reset. Kevin Otto, broker and owner of Greenhaven Capital, says it's a trend he's seeing that spells good news for our local housing market.
I think homes that are priced right are selling, or unique houses or homes that have certain attributes. They're selling, they're getting multiple offers, and they're going quick.
Nationally, Redfin predicts gradual increases in home sales and normalization of prices as affordability slowly improves, forecasting mortgage rates to dip to the low 6% range.
But I think buyers are just a little bit more cautious now, and they're getting to negotiate a little bit more. I think this year we're definitely going to see a more balanced market with more seasonal patterns, more listings, and fewer bidding wars, previous to what we've seen, in the past.
To also help improve affordability, Redfin predicts wages will grow faster than prices, with the median U.S. home sale price to rise 1% year over year in 2026. projects.
Economists say they're feeling optimistic about the housing market. In general, we've seen the stock market doing pretty well, so there is some optimism out there. In the real estate world, what are you hearing right now?
I think we're all cautiously optimistic. I think already we've seen mortgage rates come down a little bit, so that's been pretty exciting. I think just seeing rates go down to 6% or so has really brought more buyers in the market. If that trend continues or stays, I think that's going to definitely help. It's going to bring more active buyers, and hopefully we can add a little bit more inventory to that.
If you're looking to buy a home this year, keep an eye out for seller credits, which means instead of just asking for a lower price, ask if the seller will pay a certain amount toward your closing costs. Remember, your money questions have answers. Email me at lpainter@abc10.com. Stream all of our dollars and cents coverage on the free ABC10 app.
In State Matters tonight, the State Democratic Party convention started today and it runs through the weekend.
Delegates and party leaders from across the state are meeting with the mission to endorse candidates in major state races. ABC 10 State Matters political reporter Jenny Huh is at the convention in San Francisco.
The first order of business here on day one is welcoming delegates from around the state right here to the Moscone Center. I sat down with California Democratic Party Chair Rusty Hicks on what we can expect over the weekend, especially with the highly anticipated race to succeed Governor Gavin Newsom. Really, how likely do you think it is that a candidate for that race may end up with the party endorsement ahead of the primary?
I'm surprised that you would ask this question. Yes, there are a lot of candidates in the race. I don't think you have to be really good at math to recognize with 8 candidates competing for the endorsement, certainly pretty hard to get to 60%.
In the crowded race to be California's next governor, these 9 candidates are considered the leading Democrats. 8 of them are competing this weekend to get the state party's endorsement ahead of the June primary election, which requires 60% or more of the delegates' votes. San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan jumped in too late.
We're about the business of ensuring that we have a strong Democrat come out of the primary and into the general election.
California Democratic Party Chair Rusty Hicks acknowledges no gubernatorial candidate may get formal party support before June. Hicks also says he's mindful it could be 2 Republicans moving on to November, given California's open primary system in which the top 2 vote getters, regardless of party, advance to the runoff.
I'm not going to open up the playbook today, but I think the party leaders, myself included, are prepared to do what's required to ensure that we are best positioned to win in November.
And again, that does include calling on candidates to make room for the stronger candidates down the road.
Whatever's required.
But why not consolidate the blue vote now to ensure Democrats aren't boxed out?
You get to late March, you get to mid-April, you start seeing the field narrow itself into a handful of candidates that are truly competing for the opportunity to be in the general election.
Hicks says the party is bracing for what will be a tricky 2026 election cycle to flip the House of Representatives blue.
You have to pass Proposition 50, which we did overwhelmingly, and we have to win these seats. We don't own these seats. We rent them every 2 years.
And on Saturday, candidates will be giving speeches, as will special guest Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi and U.S. Senator Adam Schiff, as well as Senate President Pro Tem Monique Limón and Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas. And Sunday will be the voting for those endorsements. In San Francisco, Jenny Huh, ABC 10.
And don't forget, ABC 10's Jenny Huh and Alex Bell are in San Francisco through Sunday for the convention. We'll have team coverage on air and on the ABC 10 app. And now to an exclusive update to a story you saw first here on ABC 10. A veteran in Stockton turned to 10 on your side with concerns about wait times at the VA clinic. The local story led to a new bill being signed into law in Washington. And now 1 year later, lawmakers are asking the VA for a progress report.
And the good news is there have been some improvements. We've been able to bring down wait times from 90 days to 28 days now for primary care. But let's be honest, 28 days is way too long for our veterans to wait.
Vietnam veteran Tino Adame turned to 10 on your side, saying he was in the fight of his life with the Stockton VA clinic.
We have veterans that are dying in their cars, and we don't have the proper doctors there ready to take care of them.
We called up Congressman Josh Harder in D.C. at the time to ask what he was doing to tackle the problem. He spoke about the crisis on the House floor, and he used his position on the House Appropriations Committee to write and pass an amendment directing the VA to create an emergency plan for addressing the doctor shortage. And in 2025, lawmakers passed new legislation called the VA Competes Act.
We're pushing them to be more aggressive. They have authority that they didn't have last year to hire more physicians. And the question is, are they using that authority?
The bill aims to increase VA healthcare providers' salaries, requires annual performance evaluations and pay adjustments, and gives the VA secretary the power to waive pay caps when necessary. And just this week, Congressman Harder sent this letter to the Department of Veterans Affairs asking them to provide an implementation plan for the bill.
And so we're asking the VA for answers and trying to make sure that we can fix this once and for all.
The VA sent this statement to 10 on Your Side, saying the VA will reply directly to the congressman. In the meantime, VA continues to work to implement the salary cap waivers established in federal law. We promise to stay on top of the story and track the latest developments for our nation's heroes, and we will continue to do just that. Do you have a problem and don't know where else to turn? Email me at onyourside@abc10.com.
A local state lawmaker trying to take a regional approach to addressing homelessness is generating some fresh controversy, and it comes after she put her bill on hold just last year. ABC10's Becca Hoppecker joins us live in studio with the changes since then.
Alex, Senator Angelique Ashby is continuing her work on Senate Bill 802, including amendments meant to address city leaders' concerns from last year. But some of those leaders say the amendments come with what they're calling a threat.
Well, let me ask you, do you think we have a homeless problem?
Senator Angelique Ashby says it's the top issue among her constituents, all of whom live within Sacramento County. It's why last year she introduced SB 802, which would essentially create a county-wide so-called joint powers authority, like the Sacramento Public Library system, for example, only focused specifically on addressing homelessness.
In 2023, the grand jury put out a report. It was scathing. It said Sacramento is in an endless loop of failure as it relates to homelessness and calls for a joint powers authority.
The JPA, called the Sacramento Area Housing and Homelessness Agency in Ashby's bill, would create an 11-person board with representatives from the County Board of Supervisors and councils of all the large cities within the county. Last summer, cities pushed back, saying they weren't included in the initial discussion. They worried they would lose control of local housing and homelessness dollars, among other issues, so they opposed the bill. Ashby tabled it, bringing it back this year and meeting with city managers and mayors.
I asked them what it would take to move them to neutral, and this is what they told me. You need to take the local control piece and renew it for us. So I did that for them. They wanted to take out the local funding. In other words, Elk Grove, Citrus Heights, Rancho Cordova, and Folsom don't have to pay in.
But in recent weeks, as city councils have discussed whether to move from opposed to neutral, some members have said they feel that if they don't change their position, Ashby will remove the amendment about maintaining local control of local dollars.
So that's the threat she's given us, which I don't like to be threatened, but on the other hand, clout is clout. And so we don't have the clout she has. So I'm inclined to to go neutral on her bill.
Ultimately, both Citrus Heights and Rancho Cordova moved from opposed to neutral while continuing to work with Senator Ashby on fine-tuning the bill. The city of Folsom, however, remains unanimously opposed.
You know, it feels like a threat.
I spoke with Folsom's mayor, Justin Rathel.
Folsom has no opposition to a joint powers authority or another structure where we work together on homelessness or even housing. We're supportive of this. What we don't like is the state mandating that we form a joint powers authority.
He worries even if local dollars stayed local in this bill, how those dollars would be spent might be up to the JPA, not Folsom City Council.
We have been delivering an affordable housing here and in other neighboring cities. And so my fear is could really set us back.
Ashby says despite Folsom's opposition, she is keeping the amendment that local dollars stay local.
The county and the city of Sacramento would still be sharing resources to make, this effort move for now. But I took the small cities out in terms of having to put funding in, so they still control their own funding sources.
The bill still has a long way to go this year through committee hearings and possible future amendments. As for other cities, a majority of Sacramento's council members voted in support of a joint powers authority, though Mayor Kevin McCarty told ABC10 in a statement today he remains opposed to SB 802, calling the current version overreach and overly restrictive. And the city of Elk Grove says while its intent is to move from opposed to neutral, council won't submit a formal position letter until members review the final bill language to ensure it protects local funds. Alex?
All right, Becca, thank you.
Welcome to Willtown Riders Ranch.
We got a couple of mini donkeys over here and a mini horse.
We're meeting owner Troy Jackson, who's made it his mission to preserve and share the story of the Black Cowboy.
A black cowboy is the original cowboy. We are the original cowboy. We love the land.
Historians estimate 1 in 4 cowboys in the American West were black, many of them formerly enslaved men who found opportunity on the frontier. That's why Jackson says it was an especially proud moment when he purchased this 5-acre property in Wilton, just outside Elk Grove.
This is what my ancestors did when we were coming up as kids on a ranch, sharecropping, raising livestock. This is what they did. This is my roots. So in essence, I'm going back to my roots. That's what I told the wife, I'm going back to my roots.
For Jackson, it's about more than horses. It's about identity.
Unfortunately, that term cowboy was hijacked by Hollywood, right? And they tried to turn it into something that it wasn't. But we as African-American people, we had to keep our history alive. And the only way we can keep our history alive is by letting people know that we exist.
And so he started the Willtown Riders nonprofit, opening his ranch to inner-city youth and their families, exposing them to life on the ranch and things like horseback riding.
And I saw it, and I saw all the joy on the kids' faces being around the animals and running around having a good time. And I told the wife, I said, this is our calling. This is what I think I want to do the rest of my life.
He's a proud participant in the Northern California Coalition of Black Cowboys and Cowgirls.
We have over 25, horseback clubs here in Northern California. The average person doesn't know that.
And yet he's working to spread the word in the capital city and beyond with annual events like the Black Cowboys Parade in Oak Park.
Just seeing the joy on the people's faces and the moment of shock when they see these black people on horses, like, that's me. I can identify with that person, right? So that joy in and of itself is what brings tears to your eyes almost, right? Because these people, for the first time, actually getting to see a black person on a horse or wearing a cowboy hat or got cowboy boots on.
And we can attest, if you come visit the ranch, Troy will insist that you spend some time with the horses.
And this is Freeway. He's our social butterfly. Him and Jelly Bean are the two that do a lot of our community outreach, and Biscuit. Yeah, whenever we're into the community, it's these guys that we take out with us.
So Troy jumped on Freeway and I jumped on Jelly Bean for an official horse riding lesson. These beautiful horses have been with the family for more than 20 years, and Troy couldn't help fighting back tears when reflecting on the work he's doing to expose inner-city youth to black cowboys, one horse riding lesson at a time.
What does it mean to you to be able to provide these opportunities for people?
Well, for me, I get a little emotional. Being able to give people an experience that they probably wouldn't otherwise have, and like I said, seeing the joy on their faces, and it's very touching.
Yes, cowboys do cry.
Very touching. I apologize, but very touching.
No apology necessary. This, after all, is a man on a mission.
One goal, one purpose is to keep the history of the black cowboy alive. To let them know that we are the original cowboy. Absolutely.
Chris Thomas, ABC 10.
If you've been driving for any amount of time, you know that streets can run north, south, east, and west. But here in Oregon City, Oregon, they have a street that runs vertically. This is the Oregon City Municipal Elevator. If you're a millennial like me, the first video game you played at school was probably the Oregon Trail game, a low bitrate game that challenges players to cross treacherous terrain and raging rivers in a covered wagon, all without dying.
Oregon City was where you're trying to get at Abernathy Green, just a couple miles over there.
This is the end of the Oregon Trail and the Oregon Trail game, essentially.
Exactly, yeah. So if you actually made it, didn't get dysentery, you got to here in Oregon City.
When pioneers arrived in Oregon City, they ran into a major obstacle that would later trouble modern residents. That obstacle is a giant rock bluff that separates the industries on the lower Willamette River from the higher residential living area. I can definitely see why they wouldn't want to walk this every
Yeah, I mean, this is like an even easier climb than they had back then.
Oregon City Communications Manager Jared Lyman says by the 1910s, residents were tired of trudging up these 700 feet of stairs to get to and from work. So they built a vertical street.
It may look a little spaceshipy, but it's actually something a little more down to earth. It is the Oregon City Municipal Elevator, one of only 4 in existence in the world, and it's actually the only vertical street in the world as well.
Look, I'm not here to debate the difference between an elevator and a street. I'm here to learn about the odd history of this thing.
So the first elevator was 1915, yeah.
What was that like?
That was not what you see now. It was a much longer of a trip. It was water powered when it first opened, so you're talking like sometimes as many as 5 minutes just to get the elevator up.
The reason the original elevator took 5 minutes to go up and down is because they used the city's water pressure to lift residents, which turned out to be not so reliable.
Sometimes it stopped working. And there was actually like a little escape hatch that people would have to crawl out and go down or up this very narrow ladder.
The elevator was eventually converted into electricity and then in the 1950s redesigned and now looks like a spaceship.
But at the time, the actual call for building the elevator was, we want something as plain and non-ornamental as possible. They were trying to save money. But now it kind of created this iconic look that seems like something out of a sci-fi era.
From the top of the elevator, you can get a great view of Willamette Falls.
There's a lot of water coming over those falls. In fact, they're actually the second largest waterfall in the country by volume, behind only Niagara Falls.
Next to the falls is what's left of the old sawmill and paper mill. Jared says the land is now being redeveloped.
This property is actually now owned by the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, and they have a phenomenal vision that's going to turn this area into a real centerpiece for Oregon City. It's something a lot of people are excited to see.
Times have changed since the Oregon Trail and the early industries that were in this area, but with new developments, the Oregon City Municipal Elevator will still be needed. From the Oregon City Municipal Elevator, I'm John Bartel. Hope to see you on the back roads.
From neighbors helping neighbors to inspiring acts of kindness, each week we bring you a champion of hope. Today, we're marking Japanese Internment Remembrance Day, also known as the Day of Remembrance. 84 years ago today, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the executive order that led to the forced relocation and incarceration of some 120,000 Japanese Americans during World War II. We introduce you to a man working to preserve an important piece of that American history in Stockton. Japan's bombing of Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, provoked America's entry into World War II. It also sparked a wave of anti-Japanese prejudice across the country, so extreme that President Franklin D. Roosevelt ordered Japanese Americans into internment camps, approximately 120,000 Japanese Americans, about two-thirds of whom were American-born citizens.
Never forget, never repeat.
Jim Tabuchi's elders were forced into the camps. We spoke with him at the California Museum.
So this is a 48-star flag that's here, and this is signed by those who were incarcerated during World War II.
Including his mother.
Alice Nakao Tabuchi. She was in Tule Lake from 1942 to 1946.
While she was up by the Oregon state line, his father, aunts, and grandparents were incarcerated at the Stockton Assembly Center in the San Joaquin County Fairgrounds, where this one building is all that physically remains of the original camp. You can see it today just inside Gate 5 of the fairgrounds.
And if you were to look at all of the confinement sites across the U.S., there are very few buildings that are left.
Tabuchi is chair of Okage-sama, a nonprofit operating under the San Joaquin County Historical Museum.
Called ourselves Okage-sama because in Japanese, Okage-sama literally means thank you. It's thank you, thanks to you, thanks to our elders. And what we realize as a group is that we would not be who we are had it not been for what our elders had gone through.
Okage-sama is working to turn this remaining building into a Japanese-American interpretive center,
which would be an opportunity for people to come into this building and actually feel like they're in a Japanese-American concentration camp.
He's talking with lawmakers about getting a funding bill to restore the building and turn the site into a California State Historic Park to make it accessible to many.
And if you were to draw a radius 100 miles around that assembly center, our estimation is that there's about 13 million people that live there.
His mission feels urgent, he says.
We have to keep this story alive so that we do not repeat this, right? This injustice that happened to Japanese Americans could very easily happen to other Americans.
The last of the Japanese internment camps closed in March of 1946, a little over 4 years after FDR's executive order. To learn more about Okage-sama, we have a link at our website. Just visit abc10.com/links. Thanks for watching ABC10 this week. We are here 24/7 on the free ABC10 TV streaming app. You can get your local news and weather anytime, anywhere. I'm Becca Habiger. Take care, and I'll see you next time.